gets this cost of living adjustment, and it's going to be effective with the Social Security payment that's received in January, and then it's actually going to be the SSI payment that's received December 29th, because that would normally be that January SSI payment, but because January 1st is a Monday, so that's a holiday and it's a Monday, the days before that are obviously a weekend, so it's going to come out on the Friday before that weekend there. So that's going to be December 29th. Don't be confused by that. I've seen some things out there about, strange articles about 2 SSI payments in December. It's just because December 29th, that's the January payment. So the next one after that would be the February 1st payment. So nothing too tricky there. It's just a few days early because of the holiday, New Year's holiday falling on a Monday. But that's going to be when you're going to see those raises or those increases. And the purpose of this cost of living adjustment every year is to try and ensure that the purchasing power of Social Security and SSI benefits are not eroded by inflation. So as you might guess, they're directly tied. The amount of the cost of living adjustment is directly tied to inflation, and specifically the measurement of inflation that comes from the Department of Labor's Consumer Price Index for urban and clerical wage earners. So that CPIW is the number that's tied to the Social Security cost of living adjustment every year.
Very good. Very good. Well, Jack, let's talk about, the cost of living adjustment. And, obviously we're living in a time of inflation. So how about those two connecting to each other? How about that?
Yeah. So, basically, if we want to kind of break down how that's figured, how that's calculated, as I mentioned, it is tied directly to the CPIW. But what happens with that is that number is put out every month. So the Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, puts out a value for the CPIW every single month. And the way that the Social Security, at least since 1975, the way that the Social Security COLA has been calculated has been tied to these numbers. So what we do here is we just basically look at the average CPIW from the third quarter of last year, which would be July through September of 2022, and we compare that to the average CPIW from the third quarter of 2023. So we're looking at July, August, September of 2022, and comparing that to July, August, September of 2023. In this year, that average CPIW in the third quarter increased 3.2% compared to the third quarter of 2022. So that's why we see the 3.2% increase next year. And that's also why we knew what it was going to be in October, because early to mid-October was when that last data point, the September CPIW, came out. And that's when we could calculate what the average CPIW was in the third quarter of 23 compared to the third quarter of 22. So 3.2%, and it is tied directly to that CPIW. So, we kind of will wait and see what happens next year as we, look forward to 2025. And that's just kind of how that works. It's tied directly to that CPIW.
Jack, how does the cost of living adjustment and your Medicare Part B premiums, how do those work out?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's something that is not really directly connected. They're two separate things. Medicare Part B premiums are a component of the anticipated costs of the Medicare program for the new year. So they're not tied directly to the CPIW, but a lot of times the announcements come around the same time of year. And because if you're on Social Security, your Medicare Part B premium comes out of your monthly Social Security payment, and the change occurs at the same time, they're understandably linked in people's minds, because you see the changes up to the two at the same time. So it is a good time to mention that Medicare has announced what the standard Part B premium will be in 2024, and that's going to be $174.70. So that's up some from 2023. This year it's 164.90. It's going up to 174.70. So you are going to see that increase. It shouldn't eat up the cost of living adjustment. There should still be some surplus there because the average benefit for Social Security, that's going to go up a little bit more than what that Medicare increase is. But certainly the two are often associated and linked because of those connections I mentioned.
Very good, Jack. Well, what did we miss in this conversation? What do we need to know?
Well, just another quick reminder. I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'll touch on it again. We are in the process now of mailing what we call COLA notices out, so letters telling you what your new amount will be in the new year. So you don't need to call our office and ask for that. That should be on its way to you. We also have the option for future years. It's kind of too late if you haven't already done this now, but we have the option to sign up through your My Social Security account to get that message sent there. And so you have a message center when you log into your My Social Security account. These notices hit those message centers before they get to you in the mail. So if you're interested in that next time around, if you've already signed up for that, you can go into your My Social Security account and see your message. If you didn't sign up to get those messages that way, you can do that now. And when the 2025 COLA notice comes out, you'll be ahead of the curve there, and you'll get it that way. But again, letters are on the way. If you haven't already gotten it, don't need to call and ask about it. It's going to be coming to you.
Very good. Jack Myers, Social Security, my guest on the phone this morning. Jack, let's talk about scams. Of course, we're in the Christmas season, and it feels like you might say that scams could increase during the holidays, but it feels like they just don't ever take a day off. So maybe they do, maybe they don't. But Social Security and scam awareness. Let's talk about this real fast.
Yep. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about this quite a bit because they just don't seem to be going away. I'm with you. I don't know if they increase or not during the holidays. They just seem to always be at a relatively high pace. The scammers are using sophisticated tactics to deceive people into providing sensitive information or giving them money. You really just have to always stay vigilant, have your guard up. We do have some tips to kind of help you avoid becoming a victim of a scam, and it really centers around telling you things that we will never do at Social Security. So we're not going to text or email images of an employee's official government ID. This is something that I've heard a few more iterations of recently, where people are getting text messages or emails with pictures of IDs to try to prove that a person is real. We don't do that. So if someone's offering to do that, that's a real red flag that they're not who they say they are. We don't suspend the Social Security number. So if someone calls and says your Social Security number is in danger of being suspended, or if you get an email or something like that, we don't do that. So that's another red flag. We're not going to threaten you with arrest or other legal action unless you immediately pay a fine or fee. So if you're being pressured with that kind of scenario, that's again a red flag, something we're not going to do. And we don't require payment by retail gift cards or wire transfers or internet currency or cash or things like that. So again, those are immediate red flags to be aware of. And then also, we don't promise a benefit increase or other assistance in exchange for payment. So I think maybe that ties in a little bit to our first part of our conversation with the COLA. You don't have to do anything to get the COLA. So if someone calls you and says that they need to do this, that, or the other so that you can get your COLA, that's not true. That is not true. You don't have to do anything. There's nothing you could do to get that. It's something that if you're on benefits, you're going to get it. So be aware of that. We do occasionally send text messages to people, but only if you've opted in to receive text messages from us, and only in very limited situations, like if you have subscribed to receive updates and notification by text, or if you are logging into your My Social Security account and you get a code texted to you for what we call multi-factor authentication. Sometimes we have a program too, like if you're on the phone with one of our representatives and you say, hey, I would like information about this, they might say, well, I have a program where I can text you a link. So if we're on the phone with you right then and we do it, that's one thing. But we don't save that and then later down the road send you a different link. So just kind of be thinking about those sorts of things because we want to make sure that everybody stays protected from these scammers.
Very good, Jack. What did we miss in that conversation?
The only thing I didn't mention is where you can get more info online about this. So if you go to ssa.gov/scams, you can read about a lot of the stuff that I just talked about, and then you can also see how you could report that information to the Office of Inspector General if you've been a victim of a scam.
Very good. Jack, let's take a break here, my friend. Come back with some more. Jack Myers, Social Security, on the phone with us. More to come with him on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. Corn starting the day steady, beans higher, and wheat starting lower. March corn opening 486 up 1 3/4. May corn up 2, 497 3/4. July corn 505 3/4 up 1 3/4. January beans on this Thursday 1304 1/4 up 8 3/4. March beans 1323 1/4 up 7 3/4, and May beans starting the day at 1337 1/2 up 7 1/2. March wheat 626 1/2 down 7. May wheat down 8 3/4 635. July wheat 640 down 8 1/2. January bean meal 409.20, that's up 70 cents. January bean oil up $1.03 50.37. Opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Thursday morning. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network.
At Baum Chevrolet Buick, above and beyond is standard practice. This is Scott Baum from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. When you shop for a vehicle, there's nothing standard about it. You simply don't do it every day. That's why our sales staff will ask questions, listen, and help you find the transportation solution that checks all the right boxes. Come see our selection and start your search for a new Chevrolet or Buick today. BaumChevyBuick.com. Right from the start.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Connexus will provide local, reliable, affordable, and speed-of-light fiber internet to Clinton. Get on the install list now by clicking the Connexus icon at DeWittDailyNews.com. Fiber internet is coming to Clinton. Get on the install list now.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest again on the phone today, Jack Myers with Social Security. And Jack, let us answer a question perhaps maybe you get often is, will Social Security be there when we retire? How about this?
Yeah, Seth, that is a question. I've worked for Social Security for a lot of years, and that's a question that I've been getting from the very beginning. And, our answer, the quick answer is yes. But what I can say is there's something pretty exciting that you can take a listen to. We talked several months ago about our new audio series called SSA Talks. We kind of talked about it a little bit like an SSA podcast, if you will. Well, I don't think it's officially being called a podcast. It is kind of something that's interesting and new. And the second episode came out recently, and it's a talk with the chief actuary of Social Security, Steve Goss. And so Steve kind of breaks down what the future of Social Security looks like. So he kind of gets into that, talks about what the actuary does, what an actuary looks at, and it's not a real long listen. I think it's under 20 minutes, 15 minutes, somewhere like that. So if you want to check that out, I recommend going to our website at ssa.gov. You can look for the communications corner or go to ssa.gov/news, and then once you're in that communications corner, you're going to look for SSA talks and look for will Social Security be there when I retire. I'll tell you what, Seth, I can't imagine a better person to hear about this from than the chief actuary of Social Security. I mean, that's basically what the actuaries do, is they look at financial projections and they look at future costs of the program. And so it's really interesting to hear him talk about what the future of Social Security holds. And again, like I said, a little bit of a spoiler alert. The answer is yes, but you want to hear from Steve on kind of what goes into that answer.
Sure. Very good. So that's a good resource there as well. Anything else there to point us to there, Jack? Any other podcasts or topics to point out?
Well, one thing that I'll mention, and maybe this is a little bit of a teaser just to listen to, but I've talked a lot through the years about how I think that people need to create a My Social Security account and look at your Social Security statement to see what your benefits would be when you retire, but also to see what you would qualify for if you became disabled, or to see what your family members might potentially qualify for if you passed away. And those are important. I often say those are important financial planning tools. But one of the things that was pretty interesting about this SSA Talks episode is they talked a little bit about the future or the present day value of benefits if you were to become disabled or if you were to pass away. And they gave an example of a 30-year-old worker with median income, a spouse, and 2 young children. So they said, if that worker becomes disabled, the present value of lifetime benefits would be about $900,000. If that worker died, the present value of survivor benefits would be about $880,000. So essentially, that's what, if you look at it, the easiest way to break that down is if you look at that like a life insurance policy. What that's saying is for that particular 30-year-old worker, Social Security would be basically like an $880,000 life insurance policy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of an interesting way to look at it, and one of the little takeaways from that SSA Talks episode. So worth listening to.
And again, Jack, where do folks find that at?
Best way to find it is to go to ssa.gov/news, and then you'll find it there. Or you can just go to the ssa.gov website and then look for the communications corner, and then you'll find it there in the audio series section.
Jack, when it comes to, you always point us to these various places on the Social Security website. What are the most popular? Where do folks go the most?
Yeah, we've got a lot of pretty popular portions or pages on our website. Of course, My Social Security, that's going to be a big one because that's your personal portal to your Social Security info. So you can get specific information about you. We also have the Social Security blog, Social Security Matters. So if you go there, you can get articles about different topics. We do things with our social media sites, but they're smaller little bits of information. The blog is a little bit more in depth because they're longer articles. We've got a frequently asked questions section, so that's kind of a nice tool to use if you go to ssa.gov/FAQ for frequently asked questions. And then, of course, our retirement application. You can complete and submit your application for retirement online in as little as 15 minutes, so that's going to be at ssa.gov/retirement. Similarly, our disability application is available online. That's going to be ssa.gov/benefits/disability. And you can find these sets by just going to the ssa.gov site as well. You don't have to remember all these slashes and that sort of thing. We've got our publication library, so that's a good spot too. If you go there, ssa.gov/pubs, you can see PDFs or web-based format, all of our literature that we have. We've also got a lot of them in audio form, so if you want to just listen to some books or pamphlets about Social Security. And then the last thing I'll mention this morning is the Medicare application. So if you want to sign up for Medicare Part A and B, but you don't necessarily want to start your monthly retirement benefits yet, you can do that on the website as well, ssa.gov/Medicare/signups. So a lot of different things you can do on the website. Those are just some of the highlights, some of the more frequently visited, if you will, sites as we kind of wind down 2023 and we start talking about lists and, top lists of the year. That's sort of what we've just gone through there.
Very good, Jack. Well, in our final moments here together, still a few minutes, about 90 seconds or so, Jack. What's kind of been coming your way lately? What are folks asking you about? Is there anything standing out more than another that you've been dealing with lately?
Seth, nothing necessarily stands out more than another. I would say, the COLA is big on people's minds these days. So as we talked about at the start of the segment, the COLA, if you want some information about that, you can go to ssa.gov/COLA. You can learn more about what we talked about in the beginning. If you like to dive into the numbers sort of things, you can figure out a little bit more about the history of COLAs and that sort of thing. So I would check that out, ssa.gov/COLA, if you want a little bit more in-depth info on the COLA and its history.
Jack, it's always good to talk to you, sir. Appreciate you making time for us as always. And, happy holidays to you and yours. We'll catch up in the new year. I can't believe we're saying that already, but here we are.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, and same to you, Seth.
Very good. Jack Myers, Social Security, my guest on the phone here for this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network news comes your way next on the morning show. We stream live online all the time at DeWittDailyNews.com. Network news is next on the morning show.
The Big 1520 WHOW Clinton, 92.3 FM W222 BG Clinton, 106.5 FM W293 DJ Normal Bloomington.